Howdy, folks. Happy Tuesday. We've got some things to discuss. Sorry about yesterday, just logistical problems. But now we're all here. Ack will be joining us in a minute. Jan will be joining us in a minute. Russ, go ahead with the pre-show.
To answer the chat room, I am not pardoning my turkey. I will eat it. And no pumpkin spice turkey, but I laughed at that. Anyhow, let's talk about...
I did hear about something, and I don't know if this is true or not. And if people know about this, you can tell me if they've heard of it. Apparently, Popeyes does turkeys.
Yeah, they do a fried turkey.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know how expensive it is, but
I think it was like $28, something like that.
I know. Is it a whole turkey?
I think it is.
I would actually I'd be willing to try that. I don't know if I would not get it or get it for Thanksgiving and then everybody hate it, but I'd be willing.
The easier way is Arby's has a fried turkey sandwich. You might just go with that.
That's not Thanksgiving, Russ. Come on.
Well, no, but you're not going to do it for Thanksgiving anyhow, because like you said, there could be 6 people at the table that want to vomit. So anyhow, let's talk about the NFL. Last night, and I'd been saying this for probably 3 or 4 weeks. This Tampa Bay Bucks team reminds me of the 93 Chiefs, except the 93 Chiefs at least got to the championship game. This team will not even get to the championship game. They won't. They won't get there because Brady under pressure is not the same. They won't get there because they don't even have as good a running back as the Chiefs did in Marcus Allen, who still was really good back then. They won't because, while they're a defensive team, Bruce Arians is starting to not believe in Tom Brady a little bit, because this is the second or third week that I've heard him say, well, we were doing great until that bad pass or until this. You can't worry about Brady's age. I don't want to hear about, hey, he's 43. We all realize that that's great. End of the day, he's another quarterback in the league, and this quarterback is not leading them to the Super Bowl.
Well, okay, first of all, they need Todd Bowles' defense to live up to expectations, and when they give up,
you said Todd Bowles and defense, like right there.
Yeah, but he was a good defensive coach.
He was good. He was never great.
Okay, but I'm just saying, good. And they have talent on defense, but they're not living up. I mean, when they got basically poleaxed by New Orleans, I mean, you expect your defense to keep you in the game and your offense to produce on a consistent level. I'll grant you that Brady is not, nobody expected him to be at the level that he was 3 or 4 years ago with New England. They have a decent offensive line. Their running backs are pretty good. Their wide receivers and tight ends are great if he has time to throw. He's just now a sort of stationary quarterback. And that's, in this league, you're a dead man if you're stationary.
Yeah, I get what Funky's saying. Like, Arians always throws his quarterbacks under the bus. I didn't think he would do it this much to Brady. Yeah. That's what I'm really trying to get at. That's the difference here. He is treating Brady like any other quarterback, and I give him credit for that. But, Brady in the 2-minute offense now is no longer a huge threat. Right. He's not.
He thinks he's still got Jameis Winston as a quarterback.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not a huge threat. And, we could look at teams. The Rams are better. I think they proved yesterday that they're better. Seattle may not be better.
Yeah, Seattle has no defense whatsoever.
I know. So that's why I said they may not be. The Cardinals are better. The Saints are better.
Cardinals are okay. And I'm not saying, I'm not comparing everybody to, but the NFC is wide open. The NFC East is terrible.
Yeah, I would think the Bucs are like the 4th or 5th best team, though. That's what I think.
Yeah, the NFC East is terrible. There's nobody in
forget that.
Whoever wins the division is going to lose in the first round.
It's historic bad.
It's historic bad, yeah. I think Seattle is a one-unit team offense. Yes. I think New Orleans, without Breeze, Taysom Hill played pretty good in his first game, but I don't know. I'm not 100% sure that they can win consistently with it.
Peyton seems to be able to turn any quarterback into something.
I'm just surprised they didn't go with Winston. They went.
I'm not. You know what? I felt like they don't want the gambler in Winston. They would rather have Hill, who they can control a little better and take advantage of his running ability. And basically, like Baker Mayfield played a game against the Eagles, threw the ball 12 times. That's what they want for Taysom Hill. They want him to throw it 12 to 15 times. That's it. They'll take care of the rest.
Yeah. Jan, we're just talking about the NFC, and like I think it's pretty wide open. Even though Tampa Bay has flaws, and a lot of them, I think everybody else has flaws. I mean, Seattle's defense is not great. Arizona, even though Murray is an extremely talented quarterback, he is young and he does make mistakes. Sorry about that. Sorry, I'm just
okay.
There you go.
Yourself, it's fine.
Yeah. So I mean, I think Tampa Bay, if they can straighten it out in the last 5 or 6 weeks.
I don't think they're getting to the Super Bowl. I think there's 4 teams better. I'm not even sure they get to the championship game, honestly.
Jan, what do you think?
To me, honestly, the team to beat probably is New Orleans overall. I just think they're probably the most balanced, even with Hill at quarterback, given what we saw.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly they got to iron out how they use Kamara, and also how the throws to Thomas and also to Sanders and Jared Cook. I don't think did see a ball this past weekend. But overall, on balance, I think they're the best team overall. Murray, I think the bigger issue is how healthy is his shoulder, because offensively, they can overcome anything that their defense gives up if he's 100% healthy. And we know what Wilson can do playoff time, even though Seattle is a flawed team. I will say it is wide open. I'm not going to rule out Tampa because Brady does have the playoff pedigree, but the 2 interceptions he threw last night were just horrific throws and absolutely unnecessary. And when their running game doesn't go at all, which is what happened last night, they can't beat anybody, and Goff was just moving the ball up and down the field against their defense last night.
I think they learned that it's nice to pick up guys off the scrap heap like Leonard Fournette, but he's got bricks for hands, and you can't throw the ball to him. And that hurt him last night too, because I was saying again, Jan, I look at this team like he left, but like the '93 Chiefs. I just don't think they're even going to get as far as that. That was Montana's last great hurrah, and I think this is Brady's last hurrah.
I mean, Montana played great the first 2 rounds of the playoffs that year. He didn't play particularly well.
He did. Buffalo,
and
they were 11-5.
Buffalo was a much better team than KC overall. Montana basically helped will that team to definitely a first-round win, if not a win in the division playoffs.
I don't disagree. And I think Brady could get a couple of wins, but I think that's all he's getting. In these playoffs, he'll get one easy one for sure, and then he may get 2 others, but I'm not sure he's going any further than that.
Buffalo just couldn't win Super Bowls. Okay.
Yeah, but they made it 4 times in a row. So you know what? I mean, everybody seems to lose. Look, I mean, you had Thomas missing his helmet. You had a whole bunch of other stuff. You have Norway.
It was Andre Reed.
Right, but no. Thomas also was missing his helmet to start the second quarter, second half. Also,
yeah, there was a play or something. I do recall
with Thomas also that happened. So look, Dallas, they had shot the first year against Dallas. The second year they got outclassed.
No, vice versa.
Second time, all right. They had a shot. Yeah. I mean, look,
they were leading, and
look, they also had a shot against the Giants. I mean, the Giants had a great game plan, yet you know what? They came within a missed 47-yard field goal of winning that game, and who knows what it would have been. But Kelly was a great quarterback. 4 times, you know what? As Russ and I can attest, I'm sure I wouldn't be happy. Give me 4 shots to the Super Bowl, and you'll see Russ and I skipping down Main Street like crazy just to be happy to get there.
We wouldn't. We would at the time.
No, at the time we wouldn't. At the time we'd be upset. Looking back now, historically, we'd be fine with it. Look, I have the same thing with my Niners when they had a shot at winning the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Right? I'm upset that they lost, but you look back, same thing 2015 for our Mets, right? We were happy they made it. We're upset. When you look back now, you made it to the World Series, which wasn't expected.
Well, I can speak for most people in Buffalo to say we would trade 1 Super Bowl for the 4 straight.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but the fact that you made it 4 years in a row,
that's great.
That ever's done that is something that gets lost in the translation because unfortunately you lost all 4.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, it's always fun when your team is there, at least. I mean, I guess
when you lose there and you go through the heartbreak of getting there. Look, Russ and I have both talked about it. I was at Game 4 and Game 5 in 2015 when the Mets basically threw it away. I can tell you the heartbreak of being there. I left the game, but when they gave up the 5 runs, I didn't want to see them celebrating on the field.
Here's my reenactment of listening to the play-by-play of Van Miller before Scott Norwood kicks the field goal.
Okay, I was at a party when that happened. But I will say this: what X saying makes sense. I was in Jacksonville. We were doing a radio show with the NFL Experience, and Eagles fans were down there. They flooded it. They had fun. They just didn't win.
It's great. When you get to. It really is exciting when your team's in the Super Bowl. I mean,
they had a good time that whole week. Eagles fans had a good time.
I mean, it's a 2-week thing. It's really fun. Anyway, let's get into this. We got stuff to get into today. I got a bunch of things. Here we go. The Hockey World, it is Tuesday, November 24th, 2020.
I'm Michael Lagello.
I'm Jan Levine.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund, and you're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And we have a signing yesterday. Jake DeBrusk has returned to the Bruins, and a lot of people were wondering why he wasn't returning to the Bruins. The Bruins had money, and he's a good young player. But does this signify Chara gone? And that's the thing I'm wondering. Or does it signify that Chara is not coming back? Or do you guys think this has anything to do with Chara?
I don't think this has anything to do with it. I think their next move will have something to do. I think this one was going to happen no matter what.
Yeah.
It was just about what was the dollar amount going to be. And the Bruins won this. There's no question. They won this big time.
Big time. I don't think that. I think all of us expected in the low fours is probably what we guesstimated. I thought 3.75 at a minimum. I figured low fours to get him on that type of deal.
Yeah.
2 years. Look, it's also a little smack in his face going, hey, you know what? You've had opportunities. You haven't necessarily.
Yeah, you need to cash in.
And I would say, hey, you show me. But remember, he's an RFA with Albright next time.
Right.
So if he plays well the next 2 years, I'm pretty sure he have Albrights.
No, does not have Albrights.
No, next time.
No.
In this 2-year deal, no?
Nope.
Okay.
Not according to Cap Friendly.
Okay, I could have sworn I saw that he did have Albrights. If he didn't, I stand corrected.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Everybody was talking in terms of DeBrusk about him looking for a multi-year deal, and I'm not talking 2, I'm talking 5 or 6.
Right.
And for a deal like that, it was going to be close to what Charlie Coyle got, which was over $5 million. They didn't want to go there. That was the reason the talk was that DeBrusk was being shopped. We talked about it last month, and this is the thing. They broke him. They made him take the deal that they wanted him to take, which was a bridge deal for less than $4 million. So now he's a value, a guy who scores 20 goals at making less than $4 million. They'll keep him for the 2 years, and then they'll be repeating the same process again. He'll look for $5 million, and they won't want to give it to him, and then he'll probably get traded.
I mean, he's got to break the 50-60 point barrier for him to get bigger money, and I'm not sure he can do it, but that's what he has to do.
Yeah.
But now, they have a little under $3 million in cap space. That's enough to sign Chara if they want to.
Yeah, it's enough. I would think it's enough too.
But the question is whether they're in on somebody else like Hoffman or another free agent out there. And
Hoffman comes, then Chara's gone. Like that's
unless Chara is willing to take a veteran minimum.
There just won't be enough money. Hoffman's not taking less than 3.
Yeah.
Right, I agree.
I wonder if Chara just takes a year off. I really think that's
it could happen. I mean,
that's been hinted at, and I think when something like that's hinted at, usually there's more to it than that. So
I look at it this way again, Ek.
Yeah.
They knew yesterday they had DeBrusk signed. If Chara was waiting to see if that was going to happen, he could have signed yesterday too, and he did.
Yeah. I don't know. That's going to be. I mean, it definitely is one of the last guy of that sort of ilk. Now that I think is going to get signed. Like I wrote about yesterday, there's definitely we're in this holding pattern. We're going to see another little free agent frenzy though eventually because we have about 100 guys that have to get signed.
100.
We do.
And there's a ton of guys that are still out there. Though, I mean,
they're not just out there.
The question becomes are we looking at minimums for a lot of these guys? Are we looking at PTOs for these guys? And again, we'll talk about, I'm sure, but given some of the spikes in cases and everything else going on, timing of which the league may start might be put into question as well.
Yeah, and this so what I wrote about yesterday on my blog, and I'll get to that first, has to do with this. And basically, I was talking, when the deadline is. We've heard it was by Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving. Some people said it was the end of February. I mean, not the end of November. By American Thanksgiving, which would be 2 days from now, by this weekend. It looks like it is by the end of November. I heard Monday 30th is the big day that they have to get it done by, if they're going to get anything done. And the feeling is, that they are going to get something done. And but what they're talking about now are some creative solutions. And the one creative solution that came up was a 1-year concept of like a luxury tax situation where teams could go over the salary cap and pay a luxury tax to the teams that are getting hurt the most by the pandemic. And I think there's a lot of momentum for that because it makes some sense. There are certain teams, of course, that can do this and want to have maybe a shot at winning it.
Well,
and there's some teams that just are in.
There'll be 4 or 5 that'll be bitching and moaning now.
Yeah, well, this is the problem. If you were going to do that, then you should have done that before October the 9th and before free agency, because
Right.
Of course. No, you should have, but now we're talking about negotiation, right? So now we're looking at we're into a little bit of a negotiation now, and when you get into a negotiation, when you get into a negotiation, you end up in this situation where now they have to do something, maybe give the players back something, right? To get them to take the deferred menu, the deferred money. So to get them to take the deferred money, what do? You throw this at them and you create more cap space for them. And yes,
yeah, but the only thing is, though, I think agents are going to be dead set against this because guys lost money by signing before this,
right?
Because they could have made more money.
Well, this is, and I wrote about this today, because obviously the positives, and we'll talk about them in a minute or so, but the positives that were reported for Team Canada, for the Vegas Golden Knights, and Columbus, apparently there was also some positives that when we get started, like in the NFL right now, they expanded practice squads, they expanded rosters and active rosters. They made it easier for players to be put on injured reserve and taken off the practice squad to play, and then back on the practice squad. Same thing with Major League Baseball, where they had taxi squads. There are going to have to be taxi squads for these teams. And if those players are not counted against the cap, then that would have the same effect as a luxury tax, except for teams that are already losing money aren't paying more money. They're not going to do that. They're not going to want to pay more money to have more players. They have enough players. They just don't want to pay them anymore.
Right. That's true.
And what I floated out there is, say, for example, if you're a team like Toronto, and obviously I'm talking about the Leafs. If you're a team like Toronto, you're not going to have as your taxi squad young players who are on two-way deals, because their two-way deal pays them $80,000 or $100,000 instead of $700,000 or $800,000.
Right.
They're going to call up the one-way contracts that are in the minors. So, for example, Aaron Dell would be their backup goalie because he's on a one-way contract, and they have a couple defensemen who are on one-way deals, a couple forwards. All those guys will be up because it's not going to make a difference in terms of what you pay them to be up or to be down.
Yeah, right.
So you're not increasing what you have to pay these players, and every dollar is going to be important with these teams.
Every dollar is very much going to be important, and so I don't know. One of the guys the chat room saying that we need to get off this topic because it'll never work. NHL will never have a luxury tax. That is just
breaking news too. After that,
not the case. I mean, I agree with you. In normal times, this was never going to be discussed, right? The NHL having a topic, this was never going to be discussed in normal times at all. But we're not in normal times now. The bottom line is it is possible. It is possible for 1 year, and I've been told that it's in the realm of negotiations here that this could occur.
Okay.
It really is.
What's the breaking news?
So Mark Spector just wrote that because of the World Juniors, and we'll talk about the World Junior stuff too, but because of the World Juniors, the Oilers are looking locally for training camp sites. So let's start with that, because we know Vegas had 4 guys test positive. And you said Columbus also now?
I just heard that. Okay. I'm trying to find a.
My contention is NHL teams should tell their guys to stay home. They shouldn't be at any rink until they say the season starts and they can go to camp. And simply because they are at more risk, even at their own home site right now with everything surging, than they might be when the NHL says go to camp and they have better rules in place. And I just don't understand why they didn't do that. But again, if the Oilers, now let's just guess that the World Juniors are going to happen, even though I think it's 50-50 because they're having their own trouble with the Canadian camp and everything else with their positive tests and canceling the scrimmage game tonight and probably ending Canada's camp. I'm pretty sure that's going to end. But let's talk about that. Now the Oilers have to go find another place because they're assuming, or at least the World Juniors paid them rent, so they have to stay out until they say what they're going to do. And how do we know that place they're going to be able to lock it down locally? Because right now it's surging in Alberta, and at least if you're at an NHL rink, there's certain things, the way the locker room is, the way the aeration is, all that stuff, that it's better. Now they're going to be taking a secondary place. I don't think that's a good idea either.
Well, yeah, but they have to practice somewhere.
Yes, but it's not going to be as safe as at their own home rink.
Right,
And
but
that's when better protocols are in line.
Right.
And so I'm surprised that there's a chance that the NHL will let them start the season and have to go train somewhere else, because I think that's going to put them a little more at risk. But at end of the day, I don't understand why players are out at all now, because they shouldn't be at any of these places.
No, they really shouldn't. They have to be more careful. I mean, it's just the malaise that's come over society, like in general, that, it's exhausting to stay quarantined. It's exhausting to keep up things. And people are willing to gamble a little bit on this because, it doesn't affect everybody in a horrible way. Some people get it and get over it pretty quickly. You're definitely seeing a convergence of a lot of things here, I think, that are causing for this spike, which is dangerous. But, it's like, this is, America, at times.
Well, so Frank Saravalli saying there's several significant players for Columbus. So let's just use an example now.
Yeah.
Let's say the NHL was going to start next week for camp.
Yeah.
Now these guys aren't ready for camp because they decided they would just go out and fool around on the ice and do some extra skating.
Yep.
And now they're not. Now, we can't even assume the guys that just tested positive will be ready for camp anyhow, because you never know. If they have another positive test, they can't go. If they have prolonged effects, they can't go. So now, if this is 4 significant players for Columbus, they may not have these guys in camp for half their camp.
Yeah, and this is why I do believe that our start date is not January 1st. And talking to more people, the more I talk to people, the more I believe that you really are looking at a January 15th round than January 18th start date.
If it's January 15th, I'm good with it, because that's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If it's February 1st, forget about it.
It gets harder, yeah.
I mean,
it definitely gets harder in February, no question.
You can get a 60-game schedule or something close to 60 games starting January 15th. If you're going February 1, then it's probably 48 games, and then you're running into losing money in terms of advertising, in terms of TV. Then it's a disaster.
The other thing that was just texted that's being negotiated, because we have actually a player agent watching the show right now, and he told me that he'd heard this from a guy of his who was who's involved in the talks, is making the playoffs for the next 5 years, 24 teams, which is interesting, to actually raise the playoff situation. Mm-hmm. That is something that players want. It's an easy thing for the owners to give because it gives money. It's a money maker, it's not so for the players want it. The owners get money out of it. It's kind of the only thing that keeps it back is, the purists of hockey, basically.
Well, it devalues the regular season, because the joke then back, we used to have the joke, remember, 15 years ago, that 75% of the teams make the playoffs, or 70%.
I remember when there were 24 teams and 16 teams made the playoffs?
Yeah.
It was something ridiculous.
And that was a joke. That used to be a long running joke that
it was
most of my childhood about teams making the playoffs. And now we're going to go back to that?
I think the way we just saw it happen in the bubble it does give this NHL season value. If you have a three teams bye type thing, that does definitely create it, because we saw it happen that, the teams that got to the end were not the teams that had to play the first round, right? That was definitely something that was exhausting for teams to have to do. So I think you get 24 games, but you got to go into a bye situation like that, where you have a definite benefit of the regular season, basically winning the first round of the playoffs, basically eliminating yourself in the first round of the playoffs, essentially, so that you're automatically through to the second. That's the only way I can see it happening. But I think that this is we're going to see certain things like this, because as we talk,
I can't get crazy over it, because you're right. There's going to be concessions made.
Yeah, it's definitely not Alan Walsh, Funky. I'll promise you that. Not a chance.
The question becomes, though, is at what date do you start to carve back the length of the season? By when?
It's already carved now.
No. We're projecting 60. That's what most of us are probably expecting, right?
Yeah.
By when do you start to say, okay, now we're looking at, if you're looking at January 15th, can you do 60 or you're doing 54? If you're doing February
60 there.
Are you now down to 48, which has been rumored in the past?
48. I think you lose 12 if you lose roughly 12 games if you start in February 1st. I think 48 is where you end up.
I think you can get 60 or close to 60 if you start January 15th.
You can. And remembering, also taking into account that you're going to have this back-to-back thing where teams travel to cities and play back-to-back games in that city.
Yeah.
Right, it also depends on when the playoffs are starting, and also more importantly is how many rounds of the playoffs and how many teams of the playoffs.
Well,
all that impacts the number of games you have because
they said May 15th for the playoffs because they want the playoffs done.
Right, how many rounds?
Well, yeah, if you're adding 24 teams, it becomes different, right? So it's like what Jan's saying makes a ton of sense.
Well, I see. I'm all for expanding the playoffs, but here's the one thing: Pierre LeBrun tweeted this morning, and again, you know my issues with the U.S. Canadian border, but the NHL has to deal with it because they don't know when Canada will loosen the restrictions on cross-border travel. We know there's Canadian division, 7 teams. LeBrun reported that it's going to be interdivision playoffs, so that means the first 2 rounds will be Canada, 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3. If they go to an expanded playoff, then it could result in cross
6 of the 7 teams in Canada making it if you expanded it, which is the problem because that's
right, or 5 if you go to 20. I think they'd go to 20 more than 24, but that's I think it's inherently unfair to the Canadian teams to have only 4 make it and then them beating up on each other and then one of the 4 gets to the conference final. I just think it's going to really be unfair to them.
You know, the other issue is that Michael brought up in the chat room is, again, you probably would have a playoff team picking first in the draft again. So again,
that's possible.
Would you have to? Everybody keeps walking at, and once they see the camera, they're just like, no, and it's too late. It's already too late.
Ladies and gentlemen, my daughter.
We've seen you. No, but I want to say they probably need to change the draft again too. Then, and so that's another issue.
Yeah, you do, and the draft issue is biggie. And I think that everyone kind of thought the way it worked last year was not the way it should work.
No, I don't think anybody was happy with it.
Russ, it's also pretty funny, and I don't blame the NHL, or I understand with everything being uncertain that there hasn't been an announcement of this. What the heck was that?
Really? Sorry, she's just back from college. She figured out the whole
we're doing a podcast here.
It's okay. It's all right.
But
it's all good.
That the NHL draft for next year, we still don't know where it's going to be.
No,
we don't. And
it'll be coming to a screen near you, possibly.
Well,
yeah, I think it might be a screen thing. It might be because it seems like you're not gonna. It depends when it happens, of course, but you're not gonna put people together. And it would have if it's in the fall, maybe it's live somewhere. If it's in June or July, no, it's not.
And that's the other thing. They may end up pushing the draft again because of that reason, because then it could be a moneymaker going into the next year because people now may actually show up for the draft because they have something they can show up to. So that could be another consideration.
Yeah, for sure. So we're gonna see some new nations, and it's gonna probably be going on, this weekend a lot. And I think that because they are basically at the limit. There are some teams, though, I was told flat out by 2 teams that they can't start before January 15th, no matter what. So that doesn't mean that the NHL could maybe I asked somebody at the NHL, does that mean that you're definitely out? And they said no, we could perhaps start before that with some teams, and then some teams come in and make it up a little bit more later. But it's going to be hard if you're a team that can't start till the 15th. And then you have to bet in all those games versus a team that starts on the 1st. So I think the 15th is pretty.
Well, maybe you make the first date the date for those other teams that got they need the extra time that got
right, and that's the other thing too. So I mean, the 15th just makes more sense at this point. Because December is a tough month to play around with because of the holidays and everything like that too. So it's a really hard month to get anything done.
I'm also wondering, I mean, we've seen the issues in Toronto where the Blue Jays had to play in Buffalo, the Tampa Bay, the Raptors are playing in Tampa Bay, but those instances were because U.S. teams were going to be coming in to play those teams. And in this instance, with the Leafs, there's not going to be anybody coming from the States. So is that fact going to allow the Leafs to play in Scotiabank Arena, even if it's with no fans? I would think.
Yeah,
I would think it would because there's no.
Sounds like it will.
Yeah, but we haven't had confirmation of that.
All right, can I bring up the obvious question here? So, I would say a few weeks ago the Canadian division, made sense, and it still might make sense for the border. But now with the virus surging in Canada as well as surging here, Is it going to be any safer for not having games canceled? I say no.
Yeah.
And also Canada, is going to be probably stricter with it too. So you're probably going to see just as many games canceled, if not more, because of it. So, but I think at the end of the day,
it's just about
they're already sold on it. It is more than just the logistics of it. To be honest,
what it is, and
it's the border.
First, it's the border, and second of all, it's the belief that the U.S. has been more irresponsible when it comes to the spread of COVID than Canada. And I will grant you, not to get into an argument with friends from north of the border, but maybe that's the case. But if you look at the rates as they're exploding in Alberta, as they're exploding in Ontario, they're on par. So keeping out Americans is not in and of itself going to prevent COVID from spreading. It's already spreading.
That's already spreading, but there is no point in having people. It's just like, just the same reason that states aren't. You can't travel from from different states. I mean,
right. That's idiotic too. Actually,
well, you can travel. You're supposed to quarantine if you travel from state to state.
Right.
I don't want to get political, but I do believe that with the new administration, we're going to get a much better sense of how to isolate this thing and knock it out from.
No, I think there's something to that, but it's
more
not
tracking,
Canada,
more testing, and stuff like that. That's what
Canada's not going to do anything differently. They've been doing it really well until now, when it's become hard to manage for everybody. But here's the other thing that's not being talked about. So players said they didn't want to be in a bubble, which I understand because they're keeping away from their families. With this all-Canadian division, it's not like everybody lives in Canada. Some of them are going to be away from their families unless they all go over the border and rent or get a cabin or get a place or live with their parents or whatever, or not everybody has multiple houses and multiple addresses.
Well, they're all.
But I think anyone who plays for a Canadian team is going to be living near that Canadian team. They're going to
right. I mean, for example, Mikko Lehtinen, the Leafs KHL prospect who they signed during the spring, he left Jokerit and he headed over last weekend to go to Toronto because he has to quarantine for 14 days.
Right.
So once these players go to their city, they're going to have to quarantine. Right now, if it's a Canadian city, they're going to have to quarantine for 14 days, and then they can start participating.
Here's a good example. Joe Thornton's going to have to move his whole family.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. No. That is the reality. I mean, and that's it's or he's just going to be away from them. I mean, but players do that now, though. I mean, that's not.
Well, I know, but it's just that it was talked about, and it's going to happen for some.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys who are in their final year, especially a shortened year like that.
It's going to happen for younger players. It's going to happen for traded players.
Yeah. Older players, though, quite often let their families stay where they are for a while because if their kids are in high school or whatever, and they let their families stay out, and they'll know. I don't think Patrick Marleau moved his whole family to Toronto.
He did.
He did.
He rented a house outside of Toronto.
I think his kids spent a lot of time in San Jose though, still, because I know some of them still play on a team with some of my friends' kids. So I know that I don't know exactly how that plays out. But anyway,
a good example, Amarov with the Leafs, he'll have to room with somebody in Toronto. He's probably not going to have his family there.
Yeah, no, they're. I think they're keeping him over in Russia.
Oh, they are.
Okay. I don't think he's going to go to training camp.
Okay.
Wow, Mike, someone's offering you something in Cheektowaga. Do you see that?
I know. I'm just saying thanks for the offer. He's offering me a box of coffee crisps, which for me, I would eat in about 5 seconds, and I'm a diabetic, so
that's a nice offer, though.
I really appreciate it.
So we had a taste test the other day between the cereals of Cookie Crisps. Remember Cookie Crisp cereal?
Yeah.
And Chips Ahoy cereal, and just which is the better chocolate chip cookie based cereal?
Well, I never had the cereal. Chips Ahoy are still in my top 5 of favorite chocolate chip cookies because that was my favorite as a kid.
I've never had the Chips Ahoy cereal, but I have had the
Cookie Crisp
or the Cookie
Crisps.
Cookie Crisps.
Yeah,
it sounds like you're talking in a wind tunnel right now.
It does.
A little bit strange.
Yeah, it's very strange.
But I think you'll be all right.
Okay.
Yeah, just a little bit
I was hearing crackling noises. They're like somebody who's opening a wrapper or something before.
Yeah, that's what we're hearing from your thing too. I'm not sure what it is exactly.
I'll log off, log back.
Yeah, log off and log back. I think it's your mic.
Yeah, or just unplug your mic for a second.
Yeah, it definitely is his mic.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I think that Well, we actually Chips Ahoy is better than Cookie Crisp cereal. If you're ever curious, if you want to go out and buy a cereal that is cookie based, which I can't imagine why you'd want to do that, but if you do,
but I mean, I could just buy the cookies and
you just buy cookies exactly,
and not have to go through the whole process.
Pour a bag of cookies into a bowl and dump milk over top of them,
or create dishes. At this point, I don't want to create more dishes.
No, precisely. I'm with you, 100%. All right, so
heck, I do have something to mention. I did write an article 2 days ago. Well, yesterday, actually. I posted it yesterday about how teams – I know Adam Ziller was kind of waiting on this because I teased it. But how teams are sort of handling things through through COVID, but also how you – when you get a draft pick, how a lot of times, even like a 7th-round pick, how many years they're watching them. So there was a kid that the Sharks took, Alex Young. And he was taken 196th overall this year, so 7th round. And they had a bunch of 7-rounders. But I got to tell you, if I'm going to roll the dice on a team in this league having 7th-rounders and having them make it to the NHL, I'm going to roll the dice on the Leafs and the Sharks.
Right.
They've had good luck with these late-round picks lately. And so this kid, played in the Alberta Junior Hockey League, which really before Cale Makar, we'd hear about it occasionally, but there wasn't a big deal. And Tim Burke, the ASGM of San Jose, told me they have 2 guys over there now watching that league that live in that area. So it just shows you now since post Makar, and even this player played against Makar like his first year before Makar, Alex Young, before Makar came over. So now that league is getting scouted really heavily. But here was the quote when we got deeper into conversation about just players playing, and he was just like, we want the guys to play. I don't care what league it is. We want them to play in games. I don't care if you're on the ice with McDavid and all these pros for a scrimmage. It's not the same. We want them to try and play somewhere. I'm telling you right now, if a hockey player between 18 and 24 is off the ice by not playing in the game with some degree of contact and intensity for that length of time, you'll lose something.
Yeah.
You'll definitely lose something. And so, and then there's a little bit more to it. And that's why they're so against no contact in the OHL, because it literally is just a scrimmage at that point.
Yeah, I don't understand the no contact in the OHL thing at all. Honestly, I get that I get what they're trying to do, but to me that becomes a little bit of analysis through paralysis through analysis type stuff. Like you can't, you're not going to get anywhere. Like I said, I don't understand if you're going to go to no contact, why you're just going to full face shields instead and just like blocking off.
Well, actually, so 2 things. So just to finish up on Alex Young, so the Sharks scouted him for 2 years. They would be thinking about drafting him the year before. They just didn't get around to it because they had other guys, and then they were able to do it this year. So it just shows you even a 7th-round pick, 2 years in the making. Also, we saw in women's college hockey, they had masks over their helmets.
Oh, really?
Shield. It wasn't hard.
Yeah, I don't think it should be that hard to do.
It can be done.
Yeah, it really should be. There's really good masks out there now that with oxygen and all kinds of things.
I saw the picture of it. I was like, or it may have even been like the NWHL, whichever it was, NCAA, NW. I was like, wow, you know what? You could do this in the NHL if you wanted to. The problem is players get so used to having their equipment be a certain way that they probably be against it.
They'd be against it, but you know what? At some point, players were there were some players that were against helmets, but they forced it through. You still got it. Eventually, you forced it through, and I know they had like their thing, or the grandfathered in players and stuff like that, but there were still players that wanted to not do it. So, okay. So today, I guess in our final 15 minutes here, I wanted to get into my blog from today, which was I checked in with the NHL Stanley Cup odds just for fun, and I fixed them. I thought I could fix them because what they really are, what they should be. And I want to see if you guys disagree or agree with me at all on any of these things. We can go through them real fast, and I can because now the best odds right now are 7-1, basically shared by Tampa, Colorado, and Vegas are the 3 teams that they think are the 3 favorites to win the Cup. I said I think Tampa should be 4-1. I'd put Colorado at 5-1, and I'd put Vegas at 7-1. I'd keep them there. Any thoughts on that?
I would have Colorado 3 or 4-1. Then I would have Vegas. Then I would have Tampa because, again, we're all saying, hey, Stamkos going to come back. He's going to have the same magic. He may not. And that magic did matter in them winning the Cup. So that's one thing. We still don't know what their personnel is going to be like. They're probably going to have fewer players.
Right.
There's that. Mm-hmm. And just winning 2 years in a row is incredibly hard. So I think they should be the longest odds out of those three.
The winning two years in a row. How do I sound, by the way?
Fine. That's actually
yep.
The winning 2 years in a row. I mean, I know Pittsburgh did it, but it's, we saw how difficult it was for St. Louis this year. It's really tough. And until there's the Cirelli, Cernak, Sergachev situations are rectified, I wouldn't feel comfortable betting on Tampa because we don't know what Tampa is going to be.
No, you don't. But I'm just going to guess that they're going to figure it out. So I'm basing this on if they figure everything out. But
of those three, I would bet money on Colorado.
Colorado seems okay. So then you have what I call the contenders, which are the Bruins at 12-1, and I think they should be 15-1. The Flyers at 16-1, I think they should be 20-1. The Capitals at 16, I said they should be 14-1. The Leafs at 20-1, I think they should be 15-1. The Blues. Why do you think that, Mike?
Well, okay. First, the first one that
Bruins at 12-1.
I think it should be higher than that simply because we don't know when Marchand and Pasternak will be back.
Yep.
We don't know if Chara is going to sign. I think that'll make a difference. We don't know about Rask and his mindset coming off of everything that happened in the bubble. So there's a lot of questions. So I would increase their odds probably to like maybe 20-1.
Yeah.
I think Philly
at 16-1.
I think they're a little better than the odds are. Toronto, until you see what that morass of new players put together, what they do. I think they're not a long shot, but I think you have to find out what that, and it's risky to bet money on. I'd say 25-1.
I'll tell you what I would do. I would flip-flop the Caps and Bruins. I would flip-flop them, and I'd probably leave everything else the same.
Okay. I mean, I think the Maple Leafs are going to win the Canadian division, so it's hard for me to put them at 20 and 25-1. I mean, I know you don't like when they're favorites, but I think that the idea of it
they are favorites. Especially with when you can. I mean, I know it's going to be different if there are no fans in the building, but we know that other Canadian teams work themselves into a lather when they play the Leafs because they know. Yeah. They know that they know that they're being watched by everybody in Canada, and they get a steel in their spine when they play against the Leafs. They'll be tougher against the Leafs than if they were playing good teams that are U.S. based.
Yeah, I think the pro scouting. One sec, Jen. I was going to say I think the pro scouting is going to change for these Canadian games and teams, and the Leafs defense has to be a lot better to keep those odds manageable, or at least to win that division, because I don't think they can win it if it's the same defense.
Right.
Like I might agree with you at game one, but if it's back-to-backs, I think you lose some of that luster and that motivation for game two, just because depending on the way the schedule is going to be done, right? And Toronto's going to have a target on their back regardless, based upon the fact of where they are potentially within the standings and what the expectations are. And so I don't know if teams coming in to give them their best shot, especially if it's a Canadian division of 7 teams and they're facing 6 teams around robin frequently. Yep. I don't know if that's going to make a big difference in terms of motivation at that point in time.
I just know one team won't win the Canadian division, and that's Edmonton.
Edmonton? Okay.
They won't win it. There's no way they're winning it.
I don't think they will either. St. Louis, they have a 20-1. I think that's. I would say 16-1. I think that's a little.
Yeah, I think 16's better because
that's a good bet. I'd take 20-1. That's a good bet because they could bounce back. Their defense might be better now than it was when they had Pietrangelo.
Yeah, the Penguins at 20-1 as well.
I might do a 20 to 25-1.
Yeah, I don't know about that. That defense still looks very weak now. If they get Chara.
If they get Chara,
then I can see you bumping the ranking up. But as of where they are now, I'm not sure if I'm lowering the odds on them.
Yeah, but if they get Chara, I'll go 18. But right now, I'd go 25.
What might be the big question mark there that nobody really is talking about is the fact that now your goaltending tandem is Tristan Jarry and Casey DeSmith.
Right.
Yeah.
And Jarry had a great year, but now he's the number one, and we know that a goalie who was not the number one now being the number one, that's a lot of pressure. Matt Murray won 2 Stanley Cups. Tristan Jarry didn't win any.
But here's a sneaky possible signing, and we've talked about, and not that he's anything particularly phenomenal.
Craig Anderson.
Craig Anderson there on a very low dollar deal to come in as a backup for for Jarry. Good
That'd
veteran
be
guy.
smart.
If it's a better team, you know what? You get a guy that you'd rather have in obviously than DeSmith.
Yeah.
He's a guy that can give Jarry enough rest to make him fresh.
Yeah, DeSmith is just there. Like, he's the just-in-case guy when they had 3. Now they need the 2. They probably would rather have somebody else.
Yeah, I think they would too. Now the Dallas Stars people have it. They have it. Vegas has a 20-1, and I'm thinking more like 30.
I would go 30.
Yeah, that's what I said, 30-1.
Because you have a backup playing as your number one goalie. You got Seguin out for a certain amount of time. I don't know if Bishop comes back this season. If he does, what's he going to be? Too many questions.
The Canucks at 20-1. I think that's about right.
That's fair.
I think it's about right. The Oilers are 25-1. I think they should be 20.
That's fair.
I think they should be 21. I would go
that goaltending.
Yeah, no, 25 is
I know we all think they're
bad.
We'll see. The Hurricanes.
We'll see. What do you mean?
No, I mean, who knows? I mean,
They didn't everybody else.
but they still have 2 goalies that are half.
You know what, Ek? Why don't you put that prediction on your refrigerator? You got a lot of other stuff there right now. You might have to put that too.
Can I have some ice, please?
The Carolina Hurricanes 25-1. They have them 25-1.
You know what? They would be like 17 or 15-1 if they had better goaltending.
It would be. I actually think they should be around 15-1. The Islanders, they have a 25-1. I think that's a really good bet.
I think they should be 20.
Okay.
I think because of the potential of their goaltending tandem, and this is providing Barzal comes back. If Barzal is a holdout, they're going to be back up to 30.
Yeah, Barzal will be back. I think we got to think they'll be back. The Rangers are 25-1. Kevin talked about this the other day. I
still would leave it right there.
Yeah,
I'm not bumping the rate right now. I mean, defensively, there's still lots of questions. We need to see how guys mesh together, who gets moved around. So
exactly.
I wouldn't necessarily move it.
I wouldn't either.
Calgary at 30-1.
I would make them 20-1.
I really think 20-1. Actually, what I said. I think they're 20-1. I mean,
I think they've upgraded in net. I think they're gonna. If nothing else,
but their defense.
I think their defense is good enough. They've got Val Mackey back. That is a huge addition back into their lineup. Remember how good they were playing really well until he got hurt. That hurt them.
Yeah, but they really still haven't replaced. I mean, Hamonic is still out there. I
like decent defensemen, and then it drops off a bit, no question. But Markstrom is a goalie that's never had defense in front of him. Anyhow, he's used to that.
Yeah, I mean they've got 4 defensemen. They've got Giordano, Hannafin, Anderson, and Tanev. Yeah,
they have 4, and Markstrom is a good goalie. He may not be great, but he is good.
I think he's really good.
Yeah, really good. It's a fair assessment of him. So I think why not?
The Predators at 30-1. I think they'd be 40-1.
I go 40.
Yeah, I think the Predators are that skewed. The Arizona Coyotes at 40-1.
I'd go 50.
Are you kidding me? I'd go 100-1.
Yeah, I think 41 is really low.
I went 80-1 with them.
Oh my god!
Wow.
The Winnipeg Jets at 40-1.
I think you have to go. I think you have to go better than that because of how I do.
Yeah. I said 25-1 for the Jets. I think,
25 seems about right.
Somewhere in that realm. The Devils at 50-1.
100.
All right.
No, 50 is fair. I think
50 is fair.
50 is fair.
45-1. But
if everything broke right, sure, something could happen with the Devils, but most likely, I think 50 is fair.
The Panthers at 50-1. I think that's probably about right.
It probably should be lower. I mean, honestly,
they probably should be. They probably should be like 60 or 70.
Honestly, you can't. Here's the way I look at it. You can't say that Bob will have as bad a year as he had last year.
Yeah.
So if he's back to being, close to a Vezina goalie, they're probably a 25-1 team.
Yeah, but you've lost Hoffman and Dadonov.
True. And they maybe didn't lose Hoffman. We don't know yet.
Yeah, they're likely expected to lose Hoffman.
I know. But they lost some. But they also have kids they're going to bring in. Lundell will come in.
Yeah,
the season's over. Like he's hot.
They do believe in their kids. That's for sure.
Yeah, they do. I mean,
you think they're going to bring in Lundell this year?
Yeah,
I think it's worth it. Can't hurt, right? I mean, especially in a shortened season. Why not?
I'm bringing them in.
I mean, I think they will. Columbus Blue Jackets at 50-1. I think that's really, really bad for them. I think the Blue Jackets are like a 20-1 team. Honestly, I really think that
I would go 30-1,
35-1 in my opinion.
30 based on the coach and their defense, but I think this is a vote of no confidence on their goaltending. That's the problem.
Which is weird because their goaltending was really good last year.
It was, but again, You got Elvis, who's still a young goalie. You got Corpusalo now taking over a number one spot for good, or at least to try it.
Yeah,
like there's still things that could go wrong with their goaltending.
But they potentially have two good goalies there. I don't know. The Wild at 50.
I'm not giving them. I don't think they're in the top 5 of goalie tandems in the league.
What's the old expression? When you have two goalies, you have none.
We're not handing them
they've got a good one, and then they've got a really good one coming. So I don't know.
I'm not handing them the Jennings just yet. No,
they could win it though. The Wild
they could not win it. Come on, you want to bet on that right now?
Yeah, sure. I'll bet on that. Who's going to beat them? Who's going to beat them out in the Jennings?
Who's going to beat them? I mean, Montreal could beat them out.
They've got one of the best defenses in the league, and if those two goalies are half decent,
Boston
could beat them out. The Flyers could beat them out.
I would go with that prediction. I would.
Certainly not the Sabres.
The Flyers.
No.
I mean, no. The Blue Jackets have none of those teams you're talking about have defenses that come close to the Jackets' defense.
But we're still at the end of the day. While the defense has a big effect, we're still talking about winning an award for having best goaltending, and with those two, I don't think it's going to happen.
Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't write them up yet. I mean, I really.
They're not Jockerman and Villemure. They're not.
Mild understatement.
They're not Cheevers and Gilles Gilbert.
No.
All right. Well, the Wild at 50-1.
I would go 40.
More.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't go more.
I would go 30. Yeah.
Because what if Cam Talbot has refound himself and they've made some moves? I think they could be a playoff team again if that happens. So I go 40.
Yeah, maybe. All right. How about the Montreal Canadiens is 60-1?
Less.
60?
I'd say 45.
60.
Oh, no, they should be like 30.
30. I did 50.
60 is crazy.
60 is San Jose Sharks at 60-1.
That's fair.
Probably
you wouldn't think the Sharks.
It's like they're like 100.
I went a little bit lower on them too, but
Nah, I think 60 or higher.
100-1.
the LA Kings at 80-1.
I give them 75.
Yeah, I'd say 70. The Buffalo Sabres at 80-1.
200-1.
No, stop. It's not 200. No, you
They did.
I'm not a big fan of the
Taylor Hall.
You know that.
You're embarrassing yourself at 200. Just
No,
stop.
They added Taylor Hall. I went 60-1 actually.
Okay, I'm not. And this is not a reflection on Taylor Hall. Their goaltending is Linus Ullmark and Carter Hutton. Nothing more needs to be said.
But it's still 200-1, Mike. Come on.
I'll give out those odds. I'm not fearful.
You'll give them out.
Yep.
The Sharks at 8. Let's move on. The Blackhawks at 81.
Now.
I'm the book.
Blackhawks at 81. Chicago 80-1. What do you think?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know how you're 50-1 at given that Conadelia and Malcolm Subban as your netminders.
I mean, goaltending is obviously a big issue, but they still have so much. They still have so much leadership on that team. I just have to feel like there's going to be a little bit of an us against the world mentality with them this year. I don't know. The Ducks 80-1. I put 100-1 for them.
It broke up. Would you say 80?
80. Yeah, I'd say 100-1. Yeah. The Senators at 100-1.
It's about right.
Yeah.
I would go 150.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. I'd put 90-1. But Red Wings at 200-1.
500.
200's right.
500.
250. Yeah, they should be a lot more than that. I mean, they're not going to be that.
Nobody really goes higher than 200, I don't think.
They should for them.
Oh, they should. For Detroit, they probably should. I mean, that team is going to be better, but to win a Stanley Cup, that would be one of the most remarkable things we've ever seen in sports.
That's why I'd be very willing to give out odds on that one.
Yeah. That would be pretty incredible. I mean, from minus 120 goal differential to a Stanley Cup champion, that would be a lot. Especially given
DraftKings. That's right here.
There you go. That's all the time I have for today, guys.
Just to show Mike something,
yeah.
In 2017-18, when everybody had the Knights at 200-1 to start the season, Sabres were at 65-1. So now you're telling me they're that much worse than that team? I don't think so.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No, they have added.
No, Mike's little betting scheme there is way.
Come on, take advantage.
It's funny. That's funny. Yeah, no one wants their team's odds to be low.
Take me, I'm yours.
Remember, without the buzz, it is just